Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
Hey there, everyone. This is Larry. I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for the incredible support you've shown since Selling in a Post-Trust World book launched earlier in August. Thanks to you, Selling in a Post-Trust World is making waves and helping sales professionals everywhere build authentic relationships. If you haven't grabbed your copy yet, head over to barnesandnoble.com and order yours today. And here's a special thank you. When you leave a review of the book, we'll give you instant access to our exclusive Selling in a Post-Trust World private podcast. This 12-episode series dives deeper into each chapter, offering actionable insights to elevate your sales game. Don't miss out. Order your copy, leave a review, and unlock exclusive content designed to help you sell from the heart. For more details, go to sellinginaposttrustworld.com. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this movement. Together, we're transforming the world of sales, one authentic relationship at a time.
Hello, and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Great seeing you. There's a lot of things going on here at Selling from the Heart, but the one thing I'm most excited about, we got Simon Hares in the studio, Darrell. I cannot wait.
He is back. This is going to be a fun conversation today. We've been having a great time here at Selling from the Heart, and just a sincere thank you to everybody who's been cheering on this book launch. Selling in a Post-Trust World is out there. It's getting all kinds of feedback and comments, and it's just so much fun interacting with everybody on social. And so we just want to say a huge thank you to everybody in the Selling in a Post-Trust World launch team, all of our community that's made this such a special book. And it's here. And thank you so much for cheering us on in this.
No, I tell you what, there's one person I have to give a really special shout out to. And it's a near and dear friend of ours here at Selling from the Heart. And Mike Weinberg, this book really comes to life because of your forward. It's your friendship and your belief in myself that's helped me bring Selling in a Post-Trust World to life. So Mike Weinberg, you're awesome. I'm super grateful for our friendship and you writing the forward.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Mike. We so appreciate you. And once again, thank you to everybody. If you go to sellinginaposttrustworld.com, if you haven't got your copy yet, maybe you want to grab a couple extra, go to Barnes and Noble, grab a copy of Selling in a Post-Trust World. And when you enter your order number at Selling in a Post-Trust World, you're going to get access to a really, really cool bonus item that we'll be telling you more about next week. So make sure to do that. We're so fired up about our conversation today. We've got Simon Hares back in the studio. He is the founder and lead trainer at Serial Trainer 7. He's a seasoned professional specializing in sales training, leadership development, and coaching. And with Simon's extensive background in not only sales and management, but also the hospitality industry, he crafts tailored training solutions that significantly boost sales performance and enhance leadership skills. Simon is celebrated for his dynamic and engaging training style, which not only captivates, but also delivers practical, actionable skills to his trainees. He has helped numerous organizations achieve their growth targets by developing competent leaders and efficient sales teams. Get ready for a session filled with expert advice and lots of laughs. Simon, welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. It's a three-peat.
The three-peat, Simon Hares. I'm just listening to that intro. So who's this?
Hey, Darrell, who is this? Darrell, who is this guy?
This guy is Simon Hares. And Simon, as a seasoned, experienced veteran here on the Selling from the Heart podcast and a true crowd favorite, you know the question that every guest in the Selling from the Heart podcast answers. And that is, Simon, what does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
It is ultimately about putting that customer front and center and remembering something that a guy called Carson Kressley was quoted saying when he talked about interior designers, and I've changed it for sales. And he said that the role of a designer is to give the client exactly what they want and more of what they didn't realize they needed. I believe that a salesperson's role ultimately is to give the client exactly what they want and more of what they didn't realize they needed, because ultimately that's what it's all about, because you'll truly immerse yourself into that client's space, into their world, and think like them. Remember that ultimately people buy from people they trust, they like, they believe in, and who will help either make them money, save money, or reduce their risk, rather than just taking money off of them. So when we think about what selling from the heart is, it's a complex thing, of course it is, but it can be made very simple with some really straightforward approaches like the ones that we see featured with all the lovely guests that you have on the Selling from the Heart podcast, plus some of the books that you've written, like this little lady. This is a very good book, very good book. We love it, so it's all good.
Oh, thanks for the subtle plug, Simon. But I've always said this, and it plays into what you just said, is when you shine the light on others, watch what starts to happen. But all too often, the struggle that many have in sales is they're shining the light on themselves. And when you shine the light on yourself, it's hard for somebody to truly open up so you can help them become better. It's amazing. Literally just flip the switch, watch what starts to happen.
Yeah, very much, very much. And, extending that thought for today, I kind of want to bring in some of the elements of what sales looks like from a hospitality point of view. Because many people, and, we've talked about this pre-show, there are many people who are, they are sales professionals, salespeople that are out there, but they are in this kind of hospitality business. And we are living in a world where trust is a little fractured at the moment. And we've done an awful lot together on previous podcasts where we've talked about trust and we've talked about those components of trust and we've built on those. But I think today it's a nice idea to think about the role of hospitality and what happens to people on their journey with a sales professional and what the sales professional can anticipate in terms of behaviors, and also a little on client hesitation, because maybe one of the reasons why they're not objecting but hesitating to move forward is something that we're missing from that hospitality side. So I've got lots that I want to kind of throw in today into the mix.
Well, I think this is going to be very fascinating. We've been talking about hospitality here inside Selling from the Heart recently. And just as leadership, I think, is a great place for salespeople to look to develop, because leadership is influence, sales is influence. Hospitality as well is something that we do. And Simon, I got to have lunch yesterday with a owner operator of a Chick-fil-A. So Chick-fil-A is a chicken restaurant.
I know what Chick-fil-A is.
Legendary. Well, they don't have Chick-fil-a in London yet.
No,
do
we
they?
don't.
Okay.
But we do have Tim Hortons over here.
Oh, that's good stuff.
So I'm going to lunch with this guy, Michael. We need to have him on the podcast at some point. And it was fascinating listening to the hospitality, ethos and methods of Chick-fil-A, which are so renowned that you've heard about a chicken sandwich shop in the UK, and it was interesting because we had lunch at a restaurant that wasn't Chick-fil-A. And I was watching, I was like, how's this guy going to interact? Now, fortunately, the hospitality at this restaurant was top notch. On the way home back to the office, I stopped for a cup of coffee at a coffee shop. I will remain unnamed. And I walked in and the guy at the cash register is looking down at a piece of paper and like adding up numbers for like 45 seconds. And I'm just standing there like, and it got me thinking, I just had lunch with this guru of hospitality and just experienced really good hospitality in one setting. And then right after lunch, experienced, what can I get you type hospitality. And I recognize that there is a massive opportunity that we have to create a good experience or a bad experience for our clients in this world of hospitality has a lot to teach us. So where do we begin from Simon's perspective, being a serial sales trainer and also with a background in hospitality? Where do you see the two of these things intersecting, and what should we be thinking as sales professionals?
Well, where we're going to start is with a TV series, and the TV series is The Bear. And it's a big show. It's done very well, but I want to take us to season 2. And there was an episode in season 2 where one of the brother was taken to work in a very, very high class restaurant, very fine establishment. And he was talking to one of the other members of staff there about hospitality and about the service industry. And the member of staff says, don't forget that hospitality shares a word with hospital, and hospital is defined as ultimate care. And when we think about this message of ultimate care, we have to be really clear on what that looks like to people. We also need to know what it feels like to someone as well. And we also need to demonstrate that in terms of what we do. So when we start to think about those things, that's our starting point. And it's got me thinking an awful lot about, my background in hospitality from donkey's years ago, working in hotels and restaurants, right the way forward to today, where, like you, I've been reading this book, which is incredible. And I truly, truly recommend. I mean, as you guys know, I read a lot and recommend a lot of books. There's a lot of dross out there as well, I must say, for balance, but this is exceptional. And it really got me thinking about, how we bring hospitality into sales. And then I was watching a podcast the other day, and we follow a podcast called Through My Lens. And the guy who does that, his name is Josh, and he travels with his dad. And very recently, he went with his wife to a restaurant called the Inn at Little Washington, which is in DC, which is the only 3 Michelin-starred restaurant in DC. It doesn't matter about the meal. It doesn't matter about the experience. But at the end, they did sometimes these places do a tour of the kitchen so you can see how it all goes on. And Josh noticed that around the top of the kitchen was 5 words, which hundreds of years old, these words, which they believe are the 5 pillars of hospitality. And I hope this resonates with you guys as much as it resonated with me, because when I saw these 5 pillars of hospitality, I suddenly had this, I don't want to say drop the mic, but hey, I just did. It really was that moment. So these 5 pillars of hospitality are anticipation, trepidation, inspection, fulfillment, and evaluation. Now, if we think about sales, when you meet a client for the first time, if they're in a position where maybe they've never bought a product like yours before, or they have, but you're someone different who's a supplier to them, that client is going to have a sense of anticipation going in. They're going to either have a whole set of beliefs and baggage that they're bringing in from previous sales conversations they've had with salespeople, or even, if they've never had a sales conversation before. If you talk about people who are not used to dealing with salespeople, who are in a buying position, maybe it's the first time they've done it, they are going to have that sense of anticipation and probably being briefed on that it's all about price, which of course it isn't. We know that. So there's that sense of anticipation, nervousness, and of course that's going to lead to their behavior being quite trepidatious as the salesperson and the prospect or client start to get to know each other. We tiptoe around, finding our footing, finding the comfortable areas, finding things in common, finding areas where we can comfortably challenge and have conversations. And then, of course, we move quite nicely into what we've always been trained to do, which is fact find and discovery. But have you ever noticed that within sales, everything we talk about around fact finding, questioning, and discovery is all one way? From the customer's point of view, have we ever stopped to consider that maybe they want to do the same with us? But as salespeople, we only give them that opportunity really when a proposal goes out and they reply to the proposal, or when we're asked to present our proposal. And then they come back with the objections. We think we're going into a negotiation. We're not. We're actually going into an area that's often forgotten in sales, and this is client inspection, where they have questions. They want to inspect what we're doing. Now, if you think about the SaaS market, the software as a service market, as other software areas, tend to have this quite nicely sewn up because it's the demo. So people can go in and do the demo and people can inspect and try it out. But of course, when we think about sales process and training it, I think about sales process that I train, PCMC. Probe, which is discovery. Confirm, show you've listening, confirm it back. Match, which is sell the solution based on what you've discovered from the questions. And close, ask for the business or next steps. But where does inspection sit into that? So when you think about it, it should be probe, questioning, inspection, confirm back what we have discussed, inspected, and found out together, then match and close. So this inspection piece is quite interesting. And moving forward, that of course will lead to fulfillment on what something looks like and feels like and how it works, and does it do what you promised? And then of course the evaluation, where we got used to using it and would ultimately we refer somebody to that. So when we think about hospitality, this ultimate care, it's great to talk about ultimate care. But when you break it down and you think about the journey, for want of a cliched word that we use a lot in sales, isn't it? But that journey that the client or prospect traverses with us, it is one of anticipation. It is about a little trepidation until they're comfortable. It's definitely about inspection. Fulfillment is 100% there. And evaluation plays a big role, just as it does when we go to a hotel or we go to a restaurant. And when I heard those things, my brain just went, it really, really was.
Yeah.
It wasn't clever. It wasn't sophisticated. It was just there. And it was there thinking, it's on a wall and it's been there for so many years. Why has no one uncovered this? And we stopped the podcast. I said, just rewind that back. I need to grab those words and look them up and see. And it really has created a slight shift. I say a slight shift, almost a seismic shift, actually, in some of the training that we're doing with sales.
Wow.
Hey, this is fascinating and it's really interesting. I want to go back to the very first, and that's the anticipation. And I really want, whether you're a sales leader or you're a sales professional, I really want us to hone in on the anticipation part of this, because this is the silent things that we must be aware of that are going on in that person's head the minute we enter into that conversation.
Yeah.
And if we pull it, and I love the things that you just laid out, Simon, but if we pull out anticipation part of this, I think it erodes all the others. I could be wrong, but I'm just looking at anticipation being the rock and the pillar behind this, especially when you're entering into an initial conversation with somebody.
It's an observation, isn't it? And it's one that I think requires really deep exploration and discussion as just one of those 5 pillars or tenets of hospitality. And you're right, it could potentially erode others. But would we allow those others to be eroded at the cost of everything being just in one area? Would we allow that to happen? Do we actually, as sales professionals, need to heighten our game in terms of how do we manage the trepidation? How do we manage that nervous behavior that maybe we have and they have? How do we do that? And that's around the building trust, isn't it? To give people that moment, if you will, where they just feel something and they just relax into things so that they can do the inspection bit a little bit more. Who knows? It all feels very, it feels like I want to get really forensic with it.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking, and I think it's a great thing for all of us to do as sales professionals. I'm thinking about my role as a restaurant visitor or a resort, visitor. And that the moment you walk into a restaurant or the moment you're car pulls up at a resort somewhere, if we're all honest, we're paying attention right away for how's this going to go? What's this going to be like? And if you're going to a restaurant, especially a nice restaurant, and investing, a significant amount of money on a meal, or you're going to a resort and you're going to invest, a chunk of change in a week at that place, you're on alert. And there is some trepidation there. Like, what if this is not good? I'm stuck here for a week. And, if you put that lens on those as a sales professional, I think that's super helpful, because from the first time that waiter or waitress comes across the restaurant to your table, or, from that first person that greets you with that glass of champagne at the resort, those early moments are really, really important in terms of lowering the amount of trepidation. What can we do as sales professionals? Let's think together in the early part of really just a first engagement with a prospect. What can we do to lower that level of trepidation?
Well, I think it starts with one of the big areas that we see in retail and in food retail, which is where we look at things called the customer experience. Mm-hmm. And if we take, for example, and Larry and Darrell, we talked about this before. If you think about the Starbucks experience, let's think about that for a minute. We are being managed through an experience when we walk through the doors of a Starbucks. We walk through the door, we approach somebody at a counter, they take our order and they write our name on a cup. That cup in that order is passed to a barista, who then fulfills that order, but we move to the collection area where we collect our order once our name has been called out and once the order has been confirmed. Now, we go into Starbucks thinking that all of that just happened by accident. And it didn't. That is a multi-million-dollar experience that has been sat down and thought about to allow people a seamless experience that we now take for granted. But remember that in order to be qualified to buy from Starbucks, you've got to speak the Starbucks language. You can't go in there and ask for a double espresso. You've got to ask for a doppio espresso. You can't go in there and ask for a small, medium, or large. You've got to ask for a tall, grande, or venti. You have to put energy and effort into that experience as well to show how engaged you are. Now, if you think about James Muir, we love James Muir, don't we? The perfect play, unsticking deals. The guy's a bloody genius. If we think about the things he talks about in advancements or continuation conversations, continuations are just where we pick up where we left off, very one-sided with us doing the work. Advancements are where both the sales professional and the prospect or client need to put energy and effort into the next steps to make it happen. So that client or prospect's got to bring something. They've got to show you something that they didn't have in the initial meeting. It's exactly the same in Starbucks. If we want to engage, then we have to put energy and effort into learning the language to have a fluid Starbucks experience. So when we think about how do we get that right, well, it actually starts with the organization trying to sell something, thinking about the consistent experience that their sales professionals are giving to their clients. Mm-hmm. Now, we often see that the only consistency, and this is where we often see it fall down, guys. Oh, it makes me very sad to do this, but every time it really kills me. And when I tell you, you know you're going to agree with me. How about that for an embedded command? Now, when we start to think about salesperson going in, the only consistent thing that they often do is they rock up with a laptop, they whip out the PowerPoint presentation, which is 246 slides, which they will then read to the person. And that's the same presentation that we'll send out to everybody else. And of course, every time they open that PowerPoint deck, you can actually watch a little bit of the client's soul die before your eyes. And that's the only consistent bit of experience. Yes. And yet that presentation has not been tailored or calibrated in any way above, in a lot of cases, above whacking the client's logo on it. And 9 times out of 10, they've pulled it off Google and they probably have got the wrong logo anyway. So you start to think about, because everyone in the business, the founder has said, you've got to talk about this, and finance has gone, you've got to put this in. And then someone else has gone, you've got to put a bit of that in, forgetting, of course, that the relationship is purely with the salesperson and the client. They know that person better. So they should be thinking about how they can, and I'll use this word, curate that experience, share what works so that the business learns from the salespeople as to what works. This isn't the job of marketing people to do that. This is the job of the salesperson to do it. Marketing people can create all sorts of different pieces of collateral, but if they never touch a client, then that's not great. We need to be listening to the salespeople right on the front line who can come back and say the customer responded in this way, in that way, and we noticed there are similar trends when we've spoken to other people in different in same sectors. So we curate that experience in exactly the same way, circling right back to that Starbucks experience. Ultimate care, which has been crafted so that what we are doing is we are thinking about those levels of anticipation, that trepidation where, do I know what I'm asking for? The fulfillment, I've got my coffee, and then the evaluation of it, all of those things, they count so much.
Hey, this is why in selling in a post-trust world, I break down the inspirational experience. It's exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. And whether somebody wants to believe me or not, that's okay. But I really believe whether you're a sales leader or you're a sales professional, regardless of what your company does, you're responsible for how you show up. Yeah. How you show up to inspire and influence. And it's all around the experience. And I learned that decades ago in the photocopier channel, is I wasn't the smartest person out there. And that's how I met Darrell, was in that channel. I wasn't the smartest person out there. But what I did double down on was the experience that I provided someone that kept them coming back for more. And they'd go out and tell others.
See, if you look at the luxury side of retail, the luxury side of retail can do things very well. Where I live in the UK, in a beautiful city called Bath, where lots of TV shows have been filmed, including Bridgerton, they're always here. There is a very, very beautiful and fine jewelers in Bath called Mallory's, and it's very fine. It's a very old business, decades old, very traditional, security when you go in, that kind of, you can picture what I'm thinking. And I have to get my watch battery fitted there. And when I go in, there's no way that I would even begin to think that I could afford anything in that shop. I really couldn't. But they don't treat everybody like that way, in that kind of Pretty Woman moment. They don't treat you like that. And I went in recently to have my watch battery replaced, and they serviced my watch. And when I went back to collect my watch, I went in and I'd just been walking my dog. So I was in a tatty coat that had holes in it. I had dog walking trousers and ratty shoes on that had dirt on them. And when I went into the store, I was welcomed. Good morning, sir. Welcome. How can we help you today? Which I don't like, how can I help you? But we'll move on. And I said, I've come to pick up my watch. And the chap said, is that to purchase, or is that to get a repair? And I said, oh, it's just the battery. He said, certainly, come with me. And he just said, oh, not a very nice day out there today, as they do the small talk, and led me through. Very, very lovely. As we went through to the watch studio, there was a chap in there who was doing something with one of the cabinets. And instead of saying to him, Will, could you help this gentleman, please? What he did was he said, good morning, Will. Are you available to help Mr. Hares with his watch? And I thought that touch was really nice. Not, oh, can you help Mr. Hares with his watch? It was, are you available to help Mr. Hares with his watch? Which gave him the opportunity to say, absolutely, of course, please take a seat. And it was really interesting to watch just the subtle use of these words. And as it was pouring with rain outside, I collected my watch. I went to leave, and the guy who served me, Will, said, there's an umbrella there, sir. Please take an umbrella. You don't have one. And I said, oh, that's so kind. I'll return it as soon as I come round. He said, no, please use it whenever you need. And it's that that moment where the experience just feels so effortless. It doesn't feel contrived. It just feels like the people there have got it built into their DNA. And someone thought that day, it's a horrible day, get the umbrellas out, so we give the clients the umbrellas that come in. These umbrellas probably cost them nothing, but it's a touch. It's a touch. And this touch leads me to another element of hospitality I want to talk to you about. Another area I've been inspired by. And I'd love to be able to just mention for the moment, a guy who I have found so inspirational in terms of giving service. I work within the luxury sector for certain products and training teams there. And this man's name is Thomas Cox. His surname is spelled Kochs. He was the manager of Claridge's Hotel in London. He is now the manager of the Corinthia Hotel in London. When he was at Claridge's, there was a BBC television show that was made about him and about the level of service that he gives, which is unbelievably good. I mean, the amount of time they spent on one show looking at the right clock to sit next to a bedside table was off the charts, but he got it right, let's say that. He has also done a TED Talk kind of thing that you can look up, which is called Captivating Moments, where he is talking to an audience. And this was another one of those moments. And do you remember backstage earlier, we talked about tea?
Yeah.
It's coming in right now. So for those of you watching, you don't need to know what we were talking about before, but you need to know that tea is coming up. So Thomas Cox said that when we think about the hospitality experience, we think about what somebody goes through. When they go into a fine hotel, they don't say things like, well, when we rocked up to the hotel, we were met by a fantastic doorman. The bellboy carried our luggage in. He was really lovely. We had a great experience when we checked in. We were taken to our beautiful room. The bedding was lovely. He said, nobody does that. But what they do is they will have a moment, and there will be something that you do that will take a fraction of a second that will stay forever. So let's think about what that looks like. Examples he gave were really good. I've got others. You could have a really beautiful tasting menu of 8 courses in a lovely restaurant, such as, the Inn at Little Washington I talked about earlier. And you could have an amazing experience of beautiful food. But on the last course, you were given your pudding or your dessert on a plate that had a crack in it. It's that moment that you will remember. That moment. If you think about one of the biggest phenomenon that's going on this planet right now is the Taylor Swift concert, the Eras Tour. And if you look on YouTube, you'll see lots of videos there. But you will also notice there are a number of people who have produced videos called the Errors Tour, where they pick up on the one moment when something has gone wrong. Maybe it was the staging. Maybe it was something happened with her dress. Maybe it was her microphone. Maybe it was the rain. It doesn't matter what it is, but of all the effort that went into that 3.5-hour show, that amazing thing that she has created, and yes, I am a bit of a Swiftie, all of that, it's that one moment they remember. And this is what Thomas Cox is talking about. We have to create these moments. And he believes that those moments are created in 3 areas: technical moments, emotional moments, and aesthetic moments. Technical, emotional, aesthetic. It spells the word tea.
Ah,
there we are.
The tea moment.
There you go. See, I told you it was coming. It's there. Not a coffee moment, Larry. It's a tea moment.
It's all good,
Right.
Simon.
It's it's fine. It's all good. So when we think about technically, what we have to do as sales professionals is think about the technical elements that we have in our role that we have to demonstrate work to a client every day, every way, regardless, flawlessly, every time. What we do on a Monday has to work on a Tuesday, has to work on a Thursday, has to work on a Saturday in exactly the same way. We have to show people technically that what we do is fit for purpose. And if you go back to the components of trust, it is credible, it is reliable, it is consistent, those elements, and it's got to work. So technically, we've got to be great. Now, many people are very good at talking about their products, features, and benefits in what they'll do. The testimonials will back up that technicality as well. Emotionally, we want somebody to feel something as a result. They want to have a moment where they go, oh, you get it. They get it. They get it. We've had that, haven't we, Barbara? We've had that. And they have that emotional moment where they feel something. It could be a sense of relatability. It could be intimacy. It could be that vulnerability piece. It could be something they feel that says you are right. In the same way as there are sometimes, and I was talking about this to a client the other day, you could go to a tender and they could have a decision criteria and a decision-making matrix on the type of people they want to work with. And then they meet you for the first time, you did something, you said something, and that criteria goes right out the window because of that one thing you did that made them feel something. And suddenly, boom, that's your moment. And then, of course, there's the aesthetic moment. Do you remember earlier I said about people going and doing a presentation and all they do is just slap the branding on? How about the people who actually sit down and do a presentation with people where they start to look at the presentation and make it look like, feel like, aesthetically, the business they are pitching? Yeah. In the media world, sometimes you see advertising campaigns that are done, which are called native, and they look like the website they are actually advertising on. And in the old days of magazines, the advertising would be called an advertorial. It looked like it was in the same font. All of this moment is aesthetically pleasing, and people want that because if it looks right, then it feels right. And if it works, then it's technically brilliant. We need to be thinking about all those things. Imagine this. Here's a tip for anyone watching this. If you're going to present to a client and you want to show them technically, emotionally, and aesthetically that your business is right for them, and you want a hack, find out before you go and present to them what that company's values are. What are their values? The values are the behaviors that we see every single day in the business, not just words on a wall. Look at those values and bring those values into your pitch and your presentation. Link your business to the values that they stand for. It will be different every single time. But the minute you create those values, you have shared values. Aesthetically, it looks great. Emotionally, it feels right. Technically, really good. Do that, and then you'll create that magic moment in sales. Do that. So good. And that's what ultimate care looks like.
Always a fun conversation. What a brilliant, we got to have tea right here at the end. How perfect is that? Simon, I know everybody is thinking to themselves, how do we get more Simon Hares? I want to put links to those podcast episodes and TED Talks you referred in the show notes.
I'll send them to you on email and then you've got them.
Okay, perfect. That to our listeners, how can folks get, if they're not already connected with you, how can they get more Simon in their life?
Well, LinkedIn is where you're only going to find me. I don't hang out on any other platform. So you can find me on LinkedIn, either with my name, as you can see it written there, or you can follow the Serial Trainer 7 page. But it's probably quicker just to connect with me, and then you'll automatically be connected as a follow. Anyway, you can do that. You can go to the Serial Trainer 7 website, serialtrainer7.com. There's videos of me talking on every landing page. Video's really big at the moment, guys. Can we just reinforce that message, please?
Yes.
Technical, emotional, aesthetic. Hello.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And they can get in contact with me that way.
Love it. Simon, always a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out with us today. You're a true Selling from the Heart champion.
Thanks for having me on again.
That's our pleasure.
What did you call it? A thruple? No, not
repeat.
Repeat. That's right.
It was a thruple. I was going to say, are we a thruple?
Oh my gosh, what a good time. Always fun talking with Simon. Larry, I think we add a little tea at the end. I love that concept of looking at your inspirational experience and going, are we nailing it technically, emotionally, and aesthetically? Like there's a lot we can learn from the hospitality business to make us more excellent and more effective in our sales.
There so much gold in the conversation with Simon. It just goes back and just to highlight that this is why in the trust formula, inspirational experience is the multiplier.
That's right.
I'm here to tell you, when you get the experience part of this right, when you can capture memories and experiences, people will pay handsomely for it. Not only will they pay handsomely for it, they'll keep coming back for more and more and more, and they'll go and tell others. Pay attention to the experience you're providing.
That's right. So powerful. I love the experience of getting to know folks in the Selling from the Heart community and ecosystem. Thanks to everyone who listens to this podcast and is cheering on the book. Would you do us a favor? Would you leave a review on this podcast? When you do, trust me, it helps us spread the word. And if you want to take advantage of this video thing that Simon was talking about, and you don't yet watch us on YouTube, go over to YouTube, look for Selling from the Heart, links in the show notes as well as on our website, and click that subscribe button. Once again, you'll get notified when new episodes come out, but it also really does help us spread this movement of authenticity and trust right here in the sales profession. We've got great guests coming up throughout the fall, so make sure to stay tuned to Selling from the Heart, like and subscribe. And until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, demonstrate unreasonable hospitality, and most of all,
Sell from the heart.